Hey, how y'all doing? It's Friday. I'm trying to think of the date. It's Friday, February 19th, 2026. I was speaking in my other videos. In the last video, I spoke on Satan. Hold on one second. And I was speaking on God and how people feel like God just give us to Satan for him to just sit and devour us. And so, God took me to Job. God took me to the book of Job. So while I was talking about the daughter and the deaf daughter in Job, it got so much you could touch on in this. Like you really could touch on a lot with a lot. You can read one verse and get video after video after video dealing with one verse. Dang, it's something even dealing with this Job. Cause I was gonna read about Job and how, you know, I was speaking on how Satan may tempt people. Like Satan have to go before the courts of God in order to tempt somebody. Like he don't have to. When Satan decides that he want to test somebody, he'll have to get clearance from God. So it's gonna be stipulations based on whatever this test is supposed to be. But also in this process, God may suggest you. God may also suggest you just for being a good servant. So you being a good servant, God may be like, ooh, like he did Job. Because with Job, he said, test my servant Job. But I'm gonna give you my take on what I'm getting out of what I'm seeing when I read this. Because I told you it's the living word, so it's different for everybody. It's something I want to read before this. But it's something different. So it's still Job, but it's dealing with a different point. So I'm not gonna talk about that right now. I'll come back to that. But I'm get ready to read Job. I'm in Job 1, chapter 6. I'm going to read that because in the other video I was speaking on the covenants that's established. And I said, if you don't have no sin, if you ain't dealing with no blood curses, which everybody's dealing with blood curses. Like, I'm telling you, witchcraft is in the bloodline. Somewhere is there. And you clean all the way through, and you still going through trials and tribulations, you may be tested, and it may be a Job type of situation. And in this process, once you pass the test, you'll get double for everything that went on. My voice, Satan, not today. So I'm finna read this Job and give you my perspective and angle on this. Because God is just not out here throwing us to Satan. If God was out here just throwing us to our enemies, throwing us to Satan, he wouldn't have never sent his son Jesus. He wouldn't have never sent his son Jesus. The battle has already been won. God already fought the battle and won the battle. So that's why certain things, Jesus like, I'm not doing this again. I think I listed a certain person giving their testimony, and it was dealing with Satan. And he said, you use your authority toward the demons and Satan. He said, I'm not finna go up against Satan twice because I already did it once. So now you have to exercise your own authority out here. So God has given us the authority, and God expects us to use our authority out here against the enemy. He don't expect us to always like intercede and try to put him in the middle of what's going on. He said he already fought the battle. So he said that's something he ain't even finna fight that time too. Yeah, y'all. So some certain stuff going on, you're going to have to exercise your authority against the enemy, against Satan himself. Like, you're not going to be able to, certain situation, yeah, you feel like, it's just too much. Yeah, you can put God in the situation. He'll look at the situation, but God looking at you to exercise your authority in the position because the battle has already been fought. Jesus has already defeated Satan. He has given you clearance to use his authority to do what you need to do out here. So, what's the problem? Okay, y'all, let me read this one, Job. It says, Satan attacked Job's character. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. And the Lord said to Satan, From where do you come? So Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro on the earth and walking back and forth on it. Then the Lord said to Satan, Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless, upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil? So Satan answered the Lord and said, Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not made a hedge around him, around his household, and around all that he has on every side? Have you blessed the work of his hands and his possessions and increased in the land? Now stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. This the covenant. And the Lord said to Satan, Behold, all that he has is in your power. Only do not lay a hand on his person. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. Okay, so when I read this, and I look at God as being all powerful. And the Bible says Satan seeks who he can devour. So he's going in and out the earth seeking who he can devour. So Satan is seeking people that are weak in this process. So he's going after the weakest link. Like he's just going after the weak, because he's not, you have you have to have a weakness for him to even come to you. So for him to even tempt you, you have to have a weakness for him to even tempt you in this process. And the Bible says, resist the devil and he will flee. So Satan, when it say he going in and out the earth seeking to and fro, when I see this right here with Job, my take on it is me knowing God being a good God and him knowing Satan, and Satan is trying to go after the weakest link out here. God, and then it's a lot dealing with this too. But one of the things that I'm getting out of this is God deterred Satan from going after the weakest link by bringing up Job. So God, all knowing that Satan is going in and out the earth seeking who he can devour, seeking who he can overcome and conquer in this process, God suggested Job. God knew Job was an upright man, a righteous man. Like God know this. And so God like, test my servant Job. And not only that, God know how to get under Satan's skin, because Satan is, he got this ego, he arrogant, he cocky. He all that. So when God is bragging on Job, yeah, my servant Job, yeah, he faithful, like he good. Like God is really agitating Satan by speaking on Job in his process. So God know the arrogance and cockiness of Satan. So God is trying to just kind of what you call it? Like he trying to humble him. Like I don't think it's no way you can humble Satan, but when God know he dealing with a person that's egotistical, and then you bragging on your servant Job, now Satan looking like, where he at? So it was just a target to go after Job, who he may not have went after originally if he going in and out the earth seeking who he can devour. And Job is an upright man, and Job was faithful to God. Satan is not looking at Job to target Job in this process, because Satan he already know he only go after the weak ones. He only go after you if you weak. He only tempt you if you're able to be tempted. And if you resist Satan, he will resist. So in this process, with Job being prayed up, doing everything that he needed to do, Job is not weak. Job is not weak when it comes to him and God. Like he has a very strong relationship with God in this process. And so I'm thinking that one of the things that was going on is that God was really spurring somebody else that was in the crossfire in this process by suggesting Job. So while Satan is looking for somebody to just attack, somebody that's weak to attack, God intervened and said, "No, hey, have you seen my servant Job?" To throw Satan off course of his attack of the weakest link, which he may overpower, especially if they're not in alignment with God. So if Satan is seeking who he can devour in this process, God intervenes, step in. God picked one of his strongest soldiers and say, "Hey, test Job." And then God speaks so highly of Job, it get under Satan's skin. Because Satan is very arrogant and cocky. And when Job speak highly and just have this, like, when Satan see that God got such like high, like he's very what's the word, proud of Job, and God is boasting about this proudness of his servant, it's getting under Satan's skin. But in this process, whoever Satan may have been trying to target in this process, it deterred him from targeting them too. So God put Job in the crossfire because Job was going to probably be stronger than the person who Satan was actually going to try to go after. So God put his servant in the process to kind of intercept what was going on, intercept in the middle of what was going on in this process. Because God don't want us to fail out here, y'all. So even when him putting Job before Satan, he could have been spurring somebody who Satan really was trying to target and attack, who probably did not have that strength, so to speak. And so he put his servant up. He put his servant Job up in this process. And so let the games begin. You know how it went. Satan went after everything, but in this contract, God said you can't touch his life. You can do everything you want to him, but you can't take his life. And Satan did everything but take his life in this process. Now, I'll break this down later because a lot dealing with Job, so I have to break it down. But this Job, and what I'm getting out of it is, it was a deterrence from somebody who was weak. And maybe if Satan trying to target somebody weak, God may throw somebody strong in this equation to kind of protect the person that's weak and save and spur them from Satan in this process. So he put up Job, who was righteous, who trusted God, who was faithful to God. And so I'm getting it out of it, that it was all for God's glory in the end. Because even after everything was stripped from God, Job never cursed God. And the covenant that God had with Satan was, Job, what you take everything from him, he gonna curse you. He can't possibly, Satan, like, he can't possibly love you if you giving him everything. You take everything from him and you see you still gonna have the same Job. God already knew the heart of Job, so God said, do what you want, but you can't kill him. And so that was the covenant. That was the contract. And so in this process, though, of these contracts that God put before Satan, it make our spirit strong. It make us stronger against Satan in this process. So it's just not in vain for us to go through the test that we're going through. So I'm getting that out of it, that it was a deterrence from somebody who actually may have been very weak to Satan. And while he going in and out the earth seeking who he can devour, God may throw his righteous in his mix and distract Satan. So he's so busy trying to destroy the spirit of the righteous. It's buying time for these other people who may be weak and may not can sustain Satan, so to speak. So God may put his righteous in the crossfire of all this and say, hey, test Sheena. She a faithful servant. She love me. She every day she thank me all day, every day, Satan. And then Satan like, oh, she really don't love you. So he distracted. So instead of him coming after somebody who may be weaker than me, God put me in a crossfire for me to be tested. But in this process, he's also spurring those who may not be spiritually like strong by throwing his righteous in the mix for Satan to test them. And in this process, they're going to get double of what they lost in this process of this type of test. And then in the process, it strengthens your spirit. So your spirit becomes strengthened. So as you going through the test, you are also growing during this test. Because Job learned a lot during this test that he had went through. So it's not in vain. And then God getting the glory. And then Satan, he hated. Like at the end of the day, once God still get the glory behind the bad, it just do something to Satan. Like it just do something to him. And so you got to realize, like, even in this process with Job, and what he had going on, because he telling me some more stuff dealing with this right here with Job. Job went through any and every possible kind of trauma you possibly could have, and he never cursed God in this process. And so what God is telling me is, you cannot use trauma as an excuse. Trauma is not an excuse. Job is the perfect example. Job went through what no man would never want to go through during the test, and he never cursed God in this process. Of if Job went through every type of trauma possible, and he never cursed God, and you go through trauma, and then you feel like I got a right to curse God. Job is the perfect example. Job is the perfect example that even though you may go through trauma, God is still good. God has nothing to do with the trauma that you're going through. The trauma has nothing to do with God in this process. Because if God is good, his fruit is good. Everything of God will be good. And so, I know it might be hard for you to process that. And you say, well, he the beginning of creation. So, he got to, when he let you govern yourself, and you got to choose. And instead of you choosing good, you choose bad. And you sow seeds, and you sow curses within the earth. And it all just manifesting itself. And then you want to blame God, who is good, because you chose, or somebody in your bloodline chose bad. Not only you, but somebody in your bloodline too. So, I was looking. That's all God wanted me to say dealing with that. It's a lot dealing with Job, and I have to break it down in chapters to even go into what he's talking about with it. But when you deal with, I was listening to this person, and he was getting his testimony, and he said, Adam and Eve chose death. We are in a position where we have to choose life. So, while they up in heaven with life, they pick death. We not in heaven with life. We away from life. And now we got to pick life. So he up there, Adam and Eve, they up there in heaven with God, with the light itself, with all this, and they still chose death. Us, we ain't around none of that, but we got to choose light. We around all this darkness. And in the midst of all this darkness, all this evil, our test on this earth is to choose life. So you can't blame everything on Adam out here. You can't blame everything on Eve, because they dealt with what they had to deal with. And now that you in the position you in, you still have a choice in this process. You have the choice. You can't put the choice on Adam and Eve and say we cursed, because when Jesus died, we are no longer cursed. We are no longer a cursed people. So now, who you gonna blame? It's gonna fall back on you. And the choices you made, it's gonna all come back on you. Like, it's not, when you're dealing with God, you're dealing with just, you're dealing with righteousness. You're dealing with the judge who must judge everything rightly. It's all gonna come back on you. God is not gonna put you in a position where your destiny, your life, your soul was not in your hands for you to determine where you would go. Like, it wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be right if the choices I made determined my kids and what happened to them. Because at a certain point, even though the environment may play a factor, the environment not always playing a factor, especially when free will involved and you got a choice to choose. You got a choice to choose. You can let the environment be a part of the trauma in your life, or you could choose life and choose Jesus and choose God, and at that point your environment is no longer factored into what's going on. So I think people just make excuses out here. They try to find a way to point the finger. No accountability. On this earth is no accountability, but in heaven you got all accountability, and you not only will be accountable for you, it'll be all through your bloodline. I would live to this man, and he was given 3 points. He was speaking on 3 points in this day. And he said God gave him 3 examples of being cursed in the bloodline, because he said when he was a kid, he was having all these thoughts, and darkness was coming on him, and depression, and he didn't know where it came from. And God gave him 3 points. And it came from his mother's side of the family and his dad's side of the family. It jumped over his sisters and brothers, and it hit him. So when you deal with stuff in the bloodline, it could jump over your other kids, and it could be one kid that the curse attach itself to. And he was the child that the curse attached itself to. And in this process, he said he glad it was him, because he don't think his sisters and brothers would survive. So he's saying, I'm glad I'm the one that had to deal with this and overcome this, because when I look and see my sisters and brothers, they may not could have overcome the blood curse of the family. And so in this process, he said the Holy Spirit gave him 3 examples. I can't remember all 3 off the top of my head, but one example was, he said, just say somebody at work, and say this person at work, but somebody hates somebody, so they go and they plot and get this person fired from their job. So when this person is fired from their job, they go home to their wife, and when they go home to their wife, they decide to start abusing their wife, because they got fired from their job because somebody had like maliciously did something negative to them, to the point where they end up losing their job. So now they going home and they having problems with their wife, and they end up divorcing their wife because, he's no longer working. And it causes him to go into this point where he's dealing with addiction, and he's drinking now. And then he get to the point where, boom, he may unalive himself. In this process, the blood from that man, it gonna go all the way back to the person that made him lose his job. That's what the Holy Spirit was showing him. He said when that person at his job got him fired from his job, and you got this domino effect of him going home, him losing his wife, him becoming an alcoholic to the point where he unalived himself, which is a blood covenant. He said that blood is on the hands of the person who got him fired from their job. So now the person that got him fired from their job, that spirit is in their family. That spirit has legal rights into their family, and it might attach itself to the person that actually got him fired, or it could attach itself to one of the kids in the family. But that spirit that was released when he got him fired and created all that domino effect of that whole downfall of that whole other person, it's going to now, it has opened a door, and all of that is now targeted back to the person that got him fired wrongfully. So he had addiction in there. So you're gonna have somebody in the family the person who got him fired, they probably have a child that's dealing with addiction. They probably dealing with suicidal thoughts, depression, everything that this man had to deal with because this person got him fired from a job. That person's family will reap the fruit of it. And so they gave 3 examples of this man in 3 different paths he could have taken behind him getting fired, losing his job. And all 3 of these different patterns were the fruit that this person who got him fired is going to reap through the bloodline, through their bloodline. And so sometimes you think, oh yeah, they got fired. You got blood on your hands. I got them fired. When God out here, and God is not playing them kind of games. I'm going to tell you that now. God is not playing them kind of games. You might try to figure out how, and when he said he went through his bloodline, he said it was stuff that went on with his mama and his daddy that caused these spirits to be able to latch on to him, even as a kid. He said he seen them as a kid. He knew what age they came and everything. And so when God started taking him back through everything, even through your parents and what they may have done, they may have been wrong or anything like that, or your grandparents, your great grandparents, it's in the bloodline. And I'm telling you, way back when our ancestors did witchcraft, everybody ancestors, they all it's witchcraft in the bloodline. I don't even think it's nowhere around it. But not only that, when you look at how you treat people, and it create a domino effect for these people, and just say you talk bad about somebody, and just say you talk so bad, you put them down so bad, you reject them, you do all this stuff dealing with this person to the point where this person either turn to drugs, or they become suicidal, or they just become angry at the world and decide they want to, you know, target the world and maybe take a life out here. The blood of that person reaction to you is gonna fall on your kids and your bloodline. You got blood on your hands at that point. When you did this to this person, and it caused this person to create all of this right here, you rejected this person. But because you rejected this person, you know, it's a way to do everything, y'all. But you in a malicious way, you purposely, you know, just crush this person's spirit to the point where this person became just like suicidal. Now suicidal and depression is gonna be in anxiety. All those, everything that this person dealt with, your children will also deal with. It's in the bloodline. And it might skip over, he said it skipped over a couple of his brothers and sisters and jumped on him. He was the one that the spirit said, we want this one. They didn't jump on the daughter, on his sisters, his big sister and all them. It jumped over them to him. And God showed him why and how. And it be connected to how you treat other people out here. So when they say love your enemies, when the Bible telling you about loving your enemies and all this other stuff, yeah. Because if not, you're sowing seeds and it's going to reap fruit. Whatever you do in the earth is going to reap fruit. And if it don't hit you, it's definitely going to hit your kids. And if it don't hit your kids, it's definitely going to jump to your bloodline and hit your kids. It's somebody going to be impacted by something that you done did. If you ain't following the ways of God, I'm going to tell you that too. So, y'all, I'm going to let y'all go. It just be mindful of how you treat people out here. Because if you think in your mind you're going to rejoice over getting somebody fired, like it ain't going to come on you and you going to watch your kids. Like this person got fired and it caused them to have an addiction, a drug addiction. Because you maliciously got this person fired from their job. And it created this like domino effect. And this person ended up with a drug addiction because he got fired from his job. So he got depressed. Your child will also deal with depression and may deal with drug addiction. Everything that this person had to go through and suffer, that also you have reaped that. You have planted that into your bloodline. That's how he was talking. I'm going to look at it again and see if I can see what he was saying, you know, to break it down and just have a little more clarity, because it's kind of vague what he was saying. But he was saying something like that, though. He was saying something like that. You be like, woo, you don't want to do nothing out here. It's like you walking on eggshells. And he gave 3 different examples. He said God gave him 3 different examples. And one dealt with, I think, suicide. One dealt with murder. It was 3 different endings for this person who ended up getting fired from their job from a person that maliciously targeted them. A person maliciously targeted them, made them, this is the example God gave him. A person maliciously target this person at work, they end up losing their job, but they married, and it created all these problems with this man outside of work. But what this person did, it's still following them. The spirits is still following them. So while they rejoicing like, yeah, he lost his job, you best to hope and pray your sons and your daughters don't get wrapped up in this mess that you done created for this other person out here. Because you ain't going to be reaping and rejoicing when it's your sons and your daughters dealing with the problems that was created because of you. And so, and God ain't playing them kind of games. Like, you play them kind of games all day, but do you think you getting away with anything out here? You was not getting away with nothing out here. You was not getting away with nothing. So even if it don't hit you, It's gonna hit your loved ones. It's gonna hit your kids. It's gonna hit your grandkids. It's gonna hit your great grandkids. I don't know how long the curses go. It's a certain amount of time that these curses go through the bloodline. But yeah, it might have jumped over you, but it's gonna hit somebody. Your reaction is gonna affect somebody who's in the bloodline with you. And so when I was looking at that, I was like, woo, it made me go back and try to think like, yeah, I ain't trying to do nothing wrong with nobody, not maliciously. Now, if God tell me pull back for people, then I just pull back for people. I don't even ask no question. Like when God tell me do certain stuff, okay, cool. I just go on push through. But I have to go back, especially listening to him and his story. I have to go back and be like, and even going forward, I'm like, shoot, I'm trying to walk as straight as possible out here. Because I don't need nothing jumping on my kids from something that done went on. Yeah, y'all. So I'm trying to go through and look at his video. And when I look at his video, I'm going to speak on it and break it down a little more. It's vague. But these people who feel like they getting these people fired, and then you dealing with your child who got drug addiction, you dealing with your child that dealing with anxiety, depression, all that, then was the seeds that were sown when you did this to this person. And now that same spirit was able to enter into your bloodline, and it might have skipped over you, but it definitely jumped on them. And yeah, because when I even think on it, I was like, you know, I said this person, based on the example he gave, and I'm going to go back and look and see, because it's real vague. I don't want to add or take none away. When God speak, I don't want to add or take none away, because I was thinking like, what if this person got cancer from the alcoholism? Boom. That spirit is now part of your family. It's part of your bloodline. Because of everything that you caused when you got that person fired, and everything that went on behind the scenes that you didn't see, dealing with this person's life, it planted seeds. And these seeds and these spirits, now you didn't open the door. You didn't indirectly open the door where even if it don't target you, and if they get a divorce and you in a relationship, you might end up in a divorce. That's the seed you planted. When you all behind you being malicious, trying to get somebody fired from their job, and this person dealing with all this other extra stuff, we could possibly be divorced too. So if they dealing with divorce behind what happened, because they not working no more, so now they have marital problems. And you know, God do not play by marriage. You know, there's a covenant. He in that covenant, so he ain't playing no games with this. So even though you thought in your mind, yeah, I'm gonna get this person fired, don't know what's all attached to this person working in their livelihood, and you get that person fired, and you got that person rejoicing, and they end up going through a divorce behind it. Not only a divorce, they dealing with addiction now because they drinking, and then they end up catching cancer or something. All of that coming for your family. All of that got access to your family, because you created that seed. When just by getting that person fired, you created all that. So now all of that turmoil get to attach itself to you. So, because what I'm speaking now, it's all in relation to each other. You know, in the other video, I said you have to look and see you don't have no covenants with God, with Satan. Remember I told you that? I said these are texts. I said you got to make sure you don't have, you done tied all your loose ends out here. I said spiritually you need to make sure you don't have no open doors with Satan through sin. I said you need to make sure you don't have nothing in the bloodline, which you probably do have witchcraft in your bloodline. I say 99% got witchcraft in the bloodline. I say 99.999. Very high in our bloodlines. I think it might be 1%. And that might be high. That might be 0.00001% may not have witchcraft in their bloodline, but everybody that has some form of witchcraft in the bloodline somewhere. And so through the generations. And so I said, check that. I said, then it might be a Job situation. But then God gave me another situation with that right there, where you may have maliciously done something to somebody. It caused this person to fall. And when it caused this person to fall, and it created all these spirits within this person, all those spirits now have access to torment you. All those spirits that person dealt with from losing their job, because you was just like, yeah, I'm finna get him fired, and you did what you did to get them fired. Now all those spirits have legal rights to you. Yeah, that's what he was saying. So y'all be careful out here with how y'all moving. And y'all be trying to figure out, what you doing out here? Is you planting bad seeds? Because you will reap what you sow, good and bad. You do not reap bad seeds and get good fruit. That is not the law of the land. If anybody try to give you good fruit for reaping bad seeds, they curse too, because you're going against the divine law of God. If you sow bad seeds, you get bad fruit. If you sow good seeds, you get good fruit. So if you ain't sowing no bad seeds out here, then yeah, you might and you go through your mama and your daddy. And you know a lot of these men, y'all know a lot of these men in gangs now. So y'all know a lot of these men in gangs, they got blood on their hands. So a lot of these people who daddies was in gangs and affiliated with gangs, it's 9 times out of 10, it may be blood on their hands. And so if they got blood on their hands and they got kids, don't you know that it didn't trickle down? Like it don't, when you deal with blood covenants and this person is gang banging in the streets killing, but they got kids. The curse trickle down to the kids. It don't stop with them. So even though you got this man and he may be in a gang, he might be doing what he doing in the streets. What he doing in the streets depending on the extent of what he doing. He cursing his kids. He cursing his whole generation. Unless he break the curse. The curse got to be broken. But you got a lot of men, they affiliated with gangs. They come home, play daddy, and try to be the best father of the world. But when they outside their house, they gang banging out here. You don't think that it's some curses that's attached to these kids behind it? A lot of these men, they children are cursed behind it. It's curses in the bloodline dealing with with what they've been doing in the street. It fall back on the kids. Yeah. So, yeah, I ain't trying to just get into too much detail with it. But a lot of times you looking and you trying to play this victim like, I ain't did nothing. You got to go back through the bloodline. You might have to go back through your dad's bloodline. What he was doing when he was in the streets. Like, what was going on? Like, what really was going on? Like, if this person out here, like, you reaping what you sow. So even if your daddy is out here doing what they do, especially with gang banging and stuff, doing what they do, blood covenants, not only blood covenants, you dealing with abortions. Black women, we do the most abortions out of every other ethnicity. We deal with the most curses out of every other ethnicity. Say what you want behind it. It's connected to that. It's connected to the murders that we commit. So we gonna suffer and we gonna deal with our daughters dying, our sons dying out here. We gonna deal with it. Like God is not taking it lightly, the abortions that's going on. And in your mind, you can feel like it's not a child till it's born. Like you can feel whatever you want to feel, but that ain't the truth. And so if you go, and I'm talking about on us as a race, when you go and you commit all these abortions and we outnumber everybody, the African American woman, and you look at why we suffering so much, the African American woman, we the quickest to go have abortion. And then we crying talking about, ooh, my son got murdered. I gotta bury my sons. God said, as a group, it's a curse on us behind it. It's a curse on us behind the abortions that we committed in the babies that we didn't kill. And God is not taking it lightly. I'm telling you this now. And you gonna watch your sons and daughters die. And we gonna reap and we gonna mourn in this process because of the cycle that's never ending. But we the ones doing it. So we suffering the most, the black women. We're suffering the most out here in the streets. Like we got it hard. The black women got it hard out here. But when you go back and you look and you see the abortion rate, you like, it's a direct correlation between the two. It's a direct correlation between the high abortion rate out here. And then you looking at all these young sons and daughters that's dying in the streets all the time. Like, it's a direct correlation. God ain't playing no games out here. He is not playing no games out here. And you reap what you sow in the seeds that we're sowing. And I'm just talking about through our race as black women. that's going, having all these abortions every year, millions and millions and millions of abortions. And then we the first one weeping and crying. And we planting the seeds of murder. Like, that's a seed of murder. So we actually, in the spiritual, if you look at what I'm talking about, that analogy that he said that God gave him, that seed of murder is never ending. And it's rooted in the woman. Because she's the one going having an abortion. That's a seed planted in it. And it's just manifesting itself in the earth. And we getting a short end of the stick out here behind it. But we just, that's just the cycle that's going on. And God is just. And when God look down on what's going on, he looking and seeing all these African American women out of everybody having millions and millions and millions of abortions. I mean, what you think gonna come out? What you think the outcome gonna be? If you sow bad fruit, if you sow bad seeds, you're gonna get bad fruit. If you sow good seeds, you're gonna get good fruit. So if you planting bad seeds in the earth, you're gonna reap a harvest behind it. A harvest is coming behind it, y'all. So when I look, all I can do is just pray. But I mean, you can't go against the law of the land. You can't go against what the divine laws God got in place out here in this process. When I pray, I be like, God, if it's your will, it got to align with your will. So I can't pray for injustice when God is a God of justice. Like, I can't do that. I can tell God have grace in certain situations. God, have some grace. That means it don't got nothing to do with with righteous, unrighteous. It's just him having grace. But y'all, I'm gonna let y'all go. But when I look at the suffering of black women, and I look at how high the abortion rates are with black women, I'm like, it's a direct correlation. You cannot tell me that the reason why a lot of black women suffering and stuff like that is due to the fact of the high abortion rate and the murders that we commit willingly. You don't think God is upset with that? So when God look back, he see the murder rate and he see we willingly go on saying, okay, yeah, I just had an abortion. Boom. Then you be like, oh, y'all pray for me. I got cancer. They found cancer in me. Pray for me. That was just a seed from what you had already produced out here. That what you already put out. And that just that seed of something in the bloodline maybe. You gotta go back, dig, see what's going on. That's why I said go back, dig, see what's going on. It could be your mamas, it could be your dad. It's a lot to clear out their bloodline. It's a lot in their bloodline. That's why Jesus came, the perfect lamb, came and died for us to clean it all up. It's all clean with Jesus. But God, he was speaking to me about that too, about the abortion and how it's a curse. I feel like it's a curse. Because when you look at black women and all the stuff we go through, and the domestic violence rate is through the roof, it's a very high possibility that you will not survive. If you is an African American woman in an abusive domestic violence relationship, your chances of survival and living is very low. That's why when the spirit of murder is already in the picture, the spirit of murder is already there. So the longer you stay in that relationship, the stronger that spirit gonna get. That's why get out that relationship. That's why it's a warning to get out. And a lot of people feel like it'll get better, and then they realize it's too late. It's too late. It's certain things you can't play with. Certain spirit you can't play with. That spirit right there, leave that spirit alone. That ain't no spirit you jump back and forth from. That's one of those spirits, when they leave, they come back 7 more spirit more wicked than itself. That's a spirit you can't play with right there. But when you look, you see all domestic violence with women. You see a lot of women, they got to bury their sons out here. You see a lot of, I'm talking about like black women. You see a lot of black women, they go through a lot. They dealing with a lot out here. And then you go back and you look at the high abortion rate among black women. You look at the fact that a lot of the men is affiliated with gangs, And in gangs, they commit murder. It's blood on their hands. And then they bring it home to their families and stuff. And so that curse the children that they got. They children that's in their bloodline, even if it might jump over their children. Their children might do real good. But somewhere in their bloodline, that seed that they planted when they was out here gang banging is gonna resurface in one of their children. It's gonna resurface. And on the bad end on the short end of the stick. So y'all, I'm gonna let y'all go. Y'all enjoy y'all day. Y'all be safe.